You open your medicine cabinet every morning, and there it sits. That bottle of calcium supplements your doctor recommended years ago. Or maybe it was a commercial that convinced you, or your mother who swore by them. You take one with breakfast, sometimes two, and you feel responsible. You feel like you're doing something good for your bones, for your future, for the version of yourself at 70 who still wants to hike and play with grandchildren. But what if I told you that right now, at this very moment, that supplement might be doing the exact opposite of protecting you? What if the calcium pill you're swallowing with the best intentions is actually turning your arteries into stone? I'm not talking about some fringe theory or internet conspiracy. I'm talking about peer-reviewed research published in the Journal of the American Heart Association, studies from Johns Hopkins Medicine, and clinical trials that have fundamentally changed how cardiologists think about supplements. Here's the headline that should terrify anyone with a bottle of calcium supplements in their house. A 10-year study of over 2,700 people found that those who took calcium supplements had a 22% higher risk of developing heart disease compared to those who got their calcium only from food. 22%, not 2%. Not a marginal difference that could be explained away by other factors. A significant, measurable, life-threatening increase in cardiovascular risk. And the cruel irony? Most people taking these supplements are doing it because they care about their health. They're trying to prevent osteoporosis, trying to stay strong, trying to avoid the fractures that took down their grandmother. But in their attempt to protect their bones, they might be sacrificing their heart. So the question we need to answer today, the question that could literally save your life, is this. How did something we've been told is essential become something that's actually dangerous? And more importantly, what do you do about it right now? Let's start with the science, because this isn't about fear. This is about understanding what happens inside your body when you take a calcium supplement versus when you eat calcium-rich food. Your body is incredibly intelligent. When you eat a bowl of yogurt, a piece of cheese, or a serving of leafy greens, your digestive system doesn't just dump all that calcium into your bloodstream at once. It absorbs it slowly, carefully, over the course of several hours. Your gut uses a complex system of receptors and transport proteins that measure how much calcium is already in your blood and adjust absorption accordingly. If you already have enough, your intestines will absorb less. If you need more, they'll take more. It's a feedback loop that evolved over millions of years to keep your blood calcium levels in a very narrow, healthy range. Your body knows exactly what to do with food-based calcium. It sends it to your bones, your teeth, your muscles. It uses it for nerve signaling and blood clotting. Everything is regulated, everything is balanced, everything works the way nature intended. But now let's talk about what happens when you take a 500 milligram or 1,000 milligram calcium supplement, especially on an empty stomach. Within 30 to 60 minutes, you get what researchers call a calcium spike. Your blood calcium levels shoot up dramatically, far higher than they would ever get from eating food. This isn't a slow, controlled release. This is a flood, and your body doesn't know what to do with it. Under normal circumstances, your body has backup systems. Excess calcium can be stored in bones, filtered out through your kidneys, or regulated by hormones like parathyroid hormone. But when you're taking supplements every single day, creating these massive spikes over and over again, your regulatory systems get overwhelmed. And that's when the calcium starts going where it should never go, into the walls of your arteries. This process is called arterial calcification, and it's not the same thing as cholesterol plaques. This is your arterial walls literally becoming infiltrated with calcium deposits, hardening, losing their flexibility, becoming brittle and prone to rupture. The research published in the Journal of the American Heart Association makes this mechanism clear. When you bypass your body's natural absorption controls with a high-dose supplement, you're essentially carpet bombing your cardiovascular system with calcium and hoping it ends up in the right place. But hope isn't a medical strategy. The Johns Hopkins study that followed those 2,700 participants for a decade used CT scans to actually measure the calcium buildup in people's arteries. They gave each participant a coronary artery calcium score, which is the gold standard for detecting this type of damage. The results were undeniable. People who got their calcium from food had healthy, flexible arteries. People who took supplements showed progressive calcification. Their arteries were literally turning to stone, one pill at a time. Now, before you throw every supplement in your house into the trash, we need to understand something crucial about how nutrients work in your body. This isn't just about calcium acting alone. Your body is not a simple input-output machine. It's an ecosystem where vitamins and minerals work together in very specific partnerships and ratios. And this is where the story gets even more complex, because calcium supplements don't just cause problems on their own. They cause problems because they're almost always missing the critical cofactors that would help your body use calcium correctly. Let me introduce you to two nutrients that most people have never heard of, but which play starring roles in this cardiovascular drama: vitamin K2 and vitamin D. Think of calcium as a construction material, like bricks for a building. Vitamin D is the signal that tells your body to absorb those bricks from your gut and load them into the bloodstream, but vitamin K2 is the foreman who directs where those bricks should actually be placed. Without K2, the calcium just gets dumped randomly, and in many cases, that random location is your arterial walls instead of your bones. Vitamin K2 activates a protein called matrix GLA protein, which acts like a security guard in your cardiovascular system. Its job is to prevent calcium from depositing in soft tissues like arteries and redirect it to hard tissues like bones where it belongs. But here's the critical problem. The standard American diet is severely deficient in vitamin K2. It's found in fermented foods like natto, in grass-fed butter and cheese, in organ meats and egg yolks from pasture-raised chickens. Most people eat none of these things regularly, so when you take a calcium supplement without adequate K2 in your system, you're sending that calcium into your body without any directions about where to go, and it ends up exactly where you don't want it. Research published in Thrombosis and Hemostasis found that people with the highest levels of vitamin K2 had a 52% lower risk of severe arterial calcification compared to those with the lowest levels. The protective effect was dramatic and dose-dependent. Then we need to talk about vitamin D, which brings us to a different kind of danger. While vitamin D is essential for calcium absorption and immune function, we're now seeing an epidemic of vitamin D toxicity because people are taking massive over-the-counter doses without medical supervision. The Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic have both issued warnings about this. When you take too much vitamin D, your body absorbs too much calcium from your diet and supplements, leading to a condition called hypercalcemia, which means excess calcium in your blood. And here's where it affects your heart. Hypercalcemia can cause cardiac arrhythmia, which means abnormal heart rhythms. Your heart relies on precise electrical signals to beat in a coordinated pattern. Calcium plays a role in that electrical system, but too much calcium interferes with those signals. Your heart can start beating irregularly, too fast, too slow, or in a chaotic pattern that can be life-threatening. This is the Goldilocks problem. Too little calcium is bad, but more is definitely not better. There's a just right amount that your body needs, and supplements make it far too easy to exceed that amount, especially when you're taking multiple supplements that all contain calcium or vitamin D. But the most disturbing part of this story might not be the supplements themselves. It might be the fact that nobody is really watching over this industry to make sure these products are safe or effective. In 1994, Congress passed the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, known as DSHEA, and it fundamentally changed the rules of the game. Before DSHEA, supplements had to prove they were safe before they could be sold to the public. After DSHEA, the burden of proof flipped. Now supplements are assumed to be safe until proven dangerous. The FDA can only step in after people start getting hurt. Let that sink in for a moment. The calcium supplement sitting in your cabinet right now was never tested by the FDA before it hit the market. The company that made it didn't have to prove it was safe. They didn't have to prove it actually worked. They just had to put a disclaimer on the label that says, "These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration." That little asterisk you see on every supplement bottle, that's the entire regulatory framework protecting you. Companies can make bold claims like supports heart health or promotes cardiovascular wellness without having to back those claims up with clinical trials. They can put images of healthy hearts on their packaging, use words like scientifically formulated and doctor recommended, and none of it has to be proven. It's marketing, not medicine, and consumers can't tell the difference because the bottles look medical. They're sold in pharmacies, and sometimes actual doctors recommend them without understanding the latest research. The supplement industry is now worth over $150 billion globally. The calcium supplement sector alone generates $8 billion annually, driven largely by marketing to older women who've been told for decades that they must take calcium to prevent osteoporosis. But here's the medical reality that the American Heart Association is now officially stating. They recommend a food-first approach. They're telling doctors and patients that nutrients should come from whole foods whenever possible, because food contains fiber, antioxidants, and other compounds that work synergistically to protect your heart. Pills don't have that. Pills are isolated nutrients in doses that nature never intended, stripped of all the supporting cast that makes them work properly in your body. So how do you know if this is happening to you right now? How do you know if the calcium supplements you've been taking faithfully for the past 5 or 10 years have been quietly calcifying your arteries? There is a test, and it's one of the most predictive tools in cardiology, yet most people have never heard of it. It's called a coronary artery calcium scan, or CAC scan for short. This is a specialized CT scan that takes detailed images of your heart and measures the exact amount of calcium deposits in your coronary arteries. You get a numerical score. A score of 0 means no detectable calcification, which is ideal. A score of 1 to 10 is minimal. 11 to 100 is mild. 100 to 400 is moderate and means you need to make significant lifestyle changes. Anything above 400 is severe and puts you at high risk for a heart attack or stroke in the next 10 years. What makes this test so powerful is how predictive it is. A study published in JCC Cardiovascular Imaging followed over 44,000 patients and found that a CAC score was a better predictor of heart attack risk than cholesterol levels, blood pressure, smoking status, or even family history. A score above 100 meant you were 3.5 times more likely to have a cardiac event within 10 years compared to someone with a score of 0. And here's what's directly relevant to our discussion. If you've been taking calcium supplements, especially without vitamin K2, this test will show you the damage. It's not theoretical, it's visible, it's measurable. Beyond the CAC scan, there are blood tests you should be asking your doctor to run if you're currently taking calcium supplements. First, get your serum calcium levels checked. If they're consistently running at the high end of normal or above normal, that's a red flag that your body isn't processing supplemental calcium efficiently, and it might be depositing in places you don't want it. Second, check your vitamin D levels, but also insist on checking your magnesium. Magnesium is calcium's partner in crime. It helps regulate how your body absorbs and uses calcium, and it actually prevents calcium from depositing in soft tissues. If your magnesium is low and you're taking calcium supplements, you're setting yourself up for exactly the kind of arterial calcification we've been talking about. Third, if you can find a functional medicine doctor who understands advanced testing, ask about checking your matrix GLA protein levels. If this protein is undercarboxylated, meaning it's not activated, that's a sign you're not getting enough vitamin K2 to direct calcium properly, and your risk for arterial calcification is higher. Most conventional doctors don't routinely run these tests, so you need to ask specifically. You need to advocate for yourself and demand the information you need to make informed decisions about your health. Let's say you've gotten these tests and discovered that yes, you do have some arterial calcification, or maybe you just want to make absolutely sure you're getting calcium the right way going forward without risking your cardiovascular health. What do you actually do? This is where the food-first protocol that the American Heart Association recommends becomes absolutely critical. And here's some genuinely good news in a story that's been fairly alarming. Arterial calcification isn't necessarily permanent. Emerging research is showing that high-dose vitamin K2, specifically the MK7 form, may actually help reverse calcium deposits that have already formed in your arteries. A study published in Thrombosis and Hemostasis found that participants who took 180 micrograms of vitamin K2 MK7 daily for 3 years showed measurable reduction in arterial stiffness. The calcium that had been deposited in their arterial walls was being mobilized and redirected back to their bones where it belonged. Their arteries were becoming flexible again. So here's your action plan. Step 1. If you absolutely must take a calcium supplement because you have a diagnosed deficiency or a medical condition that requires it, make sure it's formulated with vitamin K2 MK7, not K1, and not synthetic forms of K2. It should also include vitamin D3 and magnesium. These 4 nutrients work as a team. Taking calcium alone is like hiring a construction crew, but only bringing the guy with the sledgehammer and leaving everyone else at home. Step 2. Prioritize food sources of calcium that come with all the natural cofactors your body needs. Wild-caught sardines with the bones are one of the best sources on the planet. A single serving gives you calcium, omega-3 fatty acids, and vitamin D, all working together the way nature designed. Full-fat dairy from grass-fed cows provides calcium along with K2. Fermented foods like kefir, aged cheeses, and if you're adventurous, natto, are loaded with K2. Dark leafy greens like collard greens, bok choy, turnip greens, and kale provide highly bioavailable calcium that your body recognizes and knows exactly how to process. These foods don't cause calcium spikes. They don't overwhelm your regulatory systems. They work with your body's ancient wisdom. Step 3. Adopt what I call the blood test rule. If you have not had recent blood work showing that you're actually deficient in calcium, do not take a calcium supplement. The supplement industry has manufactured a fear of calcium deficiency that doesn't match medical reality for the vast majority of people. Unless you have a diagnosed absorption disorder, hyperparathyroidism, or you're taking medications that deplete calcium, food sources should be more than sufficient. Let me bring this entire story full circle because I know this has been a lot of information, and some of it has probably been unsettling, but that's intentional. This matters. Your heart matters. Your life matters. The truth that we need to confront is this. Your body is not a chemistry lab. It's not a machine where you can just pour in isolated nutrients and expect everything to balance out perfectly. Your body is an ecosystem, a magnificently complex system that evolved over millions of years to extract and utilize nutrients from whole foods in very specific combinations and ratios. When we started pulling nutrients out of food, concentrating them, isolating them, and putting them into pills, we thought we were improving on nature. We thought we were smarter than evolution, but we weren't. We were breaking something we didn't fully understand, and we're only now beginning to see the consequences. The calcium supplement story is really a story about the difference between nutrition and biochemistry. Nutrition is what happens when you eat real food, and your body recognizes it and knows exactly what to do with every component. Biochemistry is what happens when you take isolated chemical compounds in doses that would never occur in nature and hope your body figures it out. And the data is now absolutely clear from Johns Hopkins, from the Journal of the American Heart Association, from the Mayo Clinic, from every major cardiology institution. For most people, calcium supplements are not helping. They're hurting. They're creating cardiovascular risk while trying to prevent bone fractures. The math doesn't work. The trade-off isn't worth it. So here's my challenge to you, and it's not complicated. Before you take another calcium pill, ask yourself these questions. Have I been tested for an actual calcium deficiency? Do I know my vitamin K2 and magnesium levels? Have I tried getting my calcium from food sources first? Can I name 3 calcium-rich whole foods I eat on a regular basis? If you cannot answer yes to these questions, you need to pause. You need to have a conversation with a doctor who understands functional nutrition and stays current with cardiovascular research, not someone who's still practicing based on what they learned in medical school 30 years ago. Get a CAC scan if you've been taking supplements for years. Know your baseline. Know what's actually happening inside your arteries. Because the saddest part of this entire story is that most people taking calcium supplements right now are doing it because they genuinely care about their health. They're trying to be responsible. They're trying to do the right thing. They've been told by commercials, by well-meaning doctors, by friends and family members that they need these pills to stay healthy. But sometimes doing the right thing requires us to question what we've been told. It requires us to look at new evidence with open eyes and be willing to change our minds when the science changes. Your heart is counting on you to make that choice. If this video has changed how you think about supplements, if it's made you question what's sitting in your medicine cabinet right now, hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep investigating health topics that actually matter, the ones that could literally add years to your life. And if you know someone who's taking calcium supplements, especially if they're over 50, share this video with them today. This information is too important to keep to yourself. Your heart will thank you.